Today is election day in the US, or as I've come to call it, the please dear God put us out of our misery holiday. If you're looking for political commentary, you're actually not going to find it here today, and that's for a few reasons. One, I fundamentally believe that our country will never be saved by the two-party system. So elections just don't interest me all that much. I think things and the candidates themselves will only continue to get worse as long as the structure stands. And unfortunately, our system has been legally and increasingly rigged for decades by those two parties, giving Americans the illusion of choice. I often refer to our elections as panem circenses, which is the Roman phrase that means give the people bread and circuses to keep them distracted. While our elections are safe and secure, and study after study from across the political spectrum have shown that every single cycle, they are a sham. And that's why I've dedicated my career to policy reforms that we can enact no matter which party is in power. It's also why I operate as one of my two businesses, a nonprofit, Base Politics. And as such, I'm actually somewhat restrained on what I'm allowed to say to you on days like today. I've given a lot of my personal political opinions on other social media platforms outside of my official capacity, but since this show is funded by Base, you will not find that commentary here. In the aftermath of whatever happens tonight, I will likely have plenty to say, and that's commentary I'll then be legally able to provide post-election. So do stay tuned for that if that's something you're interested in. In the meantime today, though, I want to talk about women's rights, which have been at the forefront of this entire cycle, but I particularly want to discuss them in the context of a video that came out this week and that was produced by the Free Press, which has since gone viral. As you can see here, the account that initially shared this clip on Twitter wrote alongside their post, quote, "There's nothing more to add to this. Au contraire." As you can see by the 40 million impressions on that post alone, quite a lot of people had a great deal to say about it, and I'm one of them, so we're going to get into it today. First, I'm Hannah Cox with Base Politics. Welcome to my channel where I bring you my politically homeless takes on politics and culture. Before we dive in today, make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and of course, ring that notification bell so you never miss one of my episodes. So as I mentioned, women's rights and their voting preferences have been at the forefront of the conversation in this election cycle. And clearly, I've been very interested and participative in this discussion. And just this week, we were provided with a chilling example of why these conversations matter. Security footage from a college campus in Tehran was released by Amnesty International last week. And in it, we see a young woman who is walking around in her underwear with her arms folded across her chest. I'll put it on screen for those of you on video. Amnesty said Saturday the woman had been violently arrested after she protested the abusive enforcement of the dress code, which would be burqas, at Tehran's Islamic Azad University. The university's public relations director said the woman was suffering from mental health issues. Naturally, as it is the last defense of all male abusers to label their victims as crazy, and the disgusting terrorists who govern this country are certainly no exception. I saw someone post this meme on Twitter that shows women in the 1970s in normal attire, and it says Iranian women in the 70s before men, quote, protected them. We don't know much else about who exactly this woman is or what her current circumstances are, but we can imagine that they are probably quite dire, and my heart has been breaking for her every single time I scroll across an image portraying her very brave fight against true oppression. But while women in many Middle Eastern countries are fighting for their lives and their futures in devastating capacities, we have idiot American women here that continue to take the freedoms that have been hard won for them for granted. I have to roll this clip for you.
I would love to be a stay-at-home mom. I would love to be a homemaker and a wife. I would love to be able to live on a homestead and go milk my cow and take the eggs out of the chicken coop and have one baby in the belly and on my hip and another toddler coming behind me. That's like my dream, but I can't fucking do that because the way the economy is set up is I'm forced to work. I'm forced to get an education, a higher education, a college degree in order to make enough money that I can be financially independent and afford my own home or my own rent or my own gas or my own groceries, my own insurance. And it's extremely difficult to do that. And it's very isolating as a woman when you have to do all of that all on your own and you can't find somebody that you can outsource some of those chores and financial responsibilities like you would with a spouse. So no, being a single working woman absolutely sucks. It's the worst thing ever. I hate it. I would go back to the 1950s in a second just so I wouldn't have to deal with this shit.
You're talking about a traditional nuclear family where the woman doesn't work in a married household with kids.
And statistically, that was the case.
You're a single woman who isn't married with kids yet.
So I'm for because of the way it is. Most women were married by the age of 21 up until the 1970s.
I think it's a woman's choice. Before that, it was societally encouraged to marry young.
Yeah, and it was better for women mental health-wise long-term to be able to go into that long-term committed relationship and have the established family instead of being forced to slave away for a corporation that doesn't like you, doesn't care about you, makes you sit under fluorescent lights for 8, 9, 10 hours a day. You get a lunch break, you get health insurance, but do you have somebody who loves you staring at you every day like your child? No. It's horrible.
This is my least favorite version of female. It is one thing to be uninformed or to lack intelligence. It's a whole other thing to be loud about it. And it's worst of all to seek to harm others due to your own ignorance. So she's really just rounded out the pack here. I want to break down what she said. First and foremost, this woman does not want to be trad. Like, LOLOL. She can't even take care of herself. She can't even handle her little 9 to 5 job with air conditioning, but she's going to be trad? Okay. There were so many good responses to this video. This person said, "This confuses me because she's tired of taking care of herself, yet fantasizes about taking care of kids and a farm and a whole other grown human." Yeah, she's not smart. That's pretty apparent. Another person said, "This woman does not have the personality or the stamina to be a trad wife. Running a family and a farm is way more difficult, and you get less recognition than you do working any job. Women don't homestead because it's easy. Why the F do these women think feminism happened?" I quote tweeted that person because I thought it was a really good point. And I said, I grew up with a trad mom, a real one, not a cosplay knockoff. I was homeschooled and knew many others who were as well. Everyone had 3+ kids. Many were also full-time pastors' wives, which is an unpaid full-time gig on its own. Most made their kids clothes and garden and cooked from scratch on top of homeschooling. These women were tough as nails with boundless energy. My mom could put out a fire or get an appliance installed as fast as she could pick flowers. Like I said, the tradcons don't really want to be this woman, nor do they have it in them. They're just lazy and want to be rich without having to work. Like, this is the kind of woman who literally sits there and watches ballerina farms and thinks that being a trad wife is like looking pretty, wearing cute dresses and taking cute photos with babies, maybe walking out to milk her cow in the morning. Like, they've never actually worked on a farm. They've probably never even lived rurally. They've obviously never raised kids. And their idea of what they think a trad life would look like is actually so laughable to anybody who's actually been in proximity to it. The real problem she has, and it's actually very, very apparent if you just listen to the video, is that this girl doesn't want to work, period. And she thinks that opting into the trad life would get her out of the drudgery of work. What she really wants is a man who will do the work for her and provide for her so that she can stay in an extended state of adolescence. And I just have a problem with people who don't want to work. Like, I don't respect them. I don't think there's validity to their points. I just think that they are largely lowlifes. People should work. It is the state of the human condition. Feminism didn't make you work, you absolute dolt. People have had to work throughout human history because there is no incentive for people to go and do all of the actual labor required for you to have a heated and cooled home, for you to have regular different kinds of food that you're getting at the grocery every week, for you to have an assortment of clothes that you might need, for you to have the makeup that's on your face. Like, they are so childish in their mentalities. I don't know what they think would incentivize people to go and do all of the gathering and producing and supplying necessary for them to live a comfortable life if some people don't work, right? Like, it's just actually a scarcity of resources and basic reality that the vast majority of people throughout human history have had to work, including women. That's not a new concept. And it's certainly not something that came about because of feminism. No, feminism gave you the option to choose what kind of work you did and ensured you got paid for it and ensured you didn't starve if no man found you appealing enough to float you. You absolute bimbo. Furthermore, work is good for people. In reality, most people who don't work atrophy. It's not good for them. They become very uninteresting. They become even lazier. They become more neurotic. There's a lot of dignity in work, and we used to understand that as a civilization. And I will be clear here because obviously people on the far right are constantly trying to misconstrue this point. Feminism says that stay-at-home work is work. In fact, we would say it's very hard work. It's work that is often not respected. It's work that is almost always underpaid and undervalued. And it is work that many women do not find fulfilling. I have zero issue with somebody who wants to be a stay-at-home mom. I would support that choice. And our legal system would support that choice as well. But what she is arguing for is to go back to a system where women were forced into those kinds of roles, where they didn't have other options and where they weren't paid for their labor. And she's arguing for that because she hasn't been able to capture a man without those confines. Otherwise, there would be no point in her whole rant, because she can legally and economically go be a stay-at-home mom right now if that's what she's actually after. But she's not. As this person pointed out, the woman in the video could still have that farm life just as other not exceptionally beautiful women in the old days did by marrying an unattractive or older man. Yet she doesn't actually want a trad life, but instead to signal how humble she is for claiming to want that. I think what she actually wants is a 21st century lifestyle with half the work. Or she wants a guy who's probably not interested in her because successful people want other successful people, not leeches, to opt into this lifestyle with her. In response to this video on Twitter, someone posed a question. They wrote, trying to figure out why the women who want to be trad wives and the men who say they want trad wives are not finding each other and leaving the rest of us alone. Like, right? Why is she trying to force everybody back into a 1950s system? She said, why are y'all more focused on people who don't want the same things as you? And I said, I can answer this. It's because both camps are largely undesirable people, and they don't want the other undesirable people. They want the charismatic, successful, vibrant people who are thriving in society to lower their standards and take them. And I think that is so evident with this girl because, again, as the other person pointed out, she could find a man who is willing to give her a stay-at-home lifestyle. That man just might not be super attractive, and that lifestyle may not be as cozy as she would like. What she's actually after is somebody who's at the top, who she finds attractive, who makes a good bit of money, who can give her an opulent lifestyle on one income. And sorry, sweetie, that man is probably just not interested in you. Those men tend to go for equals. Furthermore, the men who are into like the whole trad wife, trad life sort of cult are just frankly not into the kind of woman that she appears to be. They tend to want women who are quite a bit younger. They tend to want women who are uneducated, who are uber religious, who are docile, which should honestly just tell you everything you need to know about these men. And she checks none of those boxes. She actually seems very aggressive and angry and bitter and loud, which I'm all for women being aggressive and angry and bitter and loud, so long as they're not pushing bullshit like she is. No, what she actually wants, and what most of the women who are like cosplaying this trad wife lifestyle want, is to be rich. I called this out immediately when I saw the video. I said what they want is to be rich, and instead of being smart enough or industrious enough to work for it, they're stupid enough to want to give their rights to work up instead. Women were not happier in the 50s. That's a laughable thing to say. And if you want to get married and have kids young now, if you want to be a stay-at-home mom, the only thing stopping you is you. But because she's failed to find a man to opt into that with her, she wants to undercut other women's choices. I detest this kind of woman. I was by no means the only person onto her. This person said, do you want to be pregnant working on a farm with 2 toddlers climbing on you? Or do you want to quit working because work definitely sucks and take aesthetic pictures of yourself with your kids wearing a smock dress? You aren't coveting a value system, babe. You're coveting wealth. Another person made the excellent point that it's economically easy if you want to live as the average 1950s family did. The actual average, not the bullshit average from the nostalgic memes. She wants to be a trad wife with a 21st century lifestyle. That is difficult because the 21st century lifestyle requires 2 incomes. And again, that's why I end up at the place that I just don't think most of these women are all that quick. Like, you have national averages of intelligence for a reason. And I think we, fail to realize that like this whole like bottom half of the population's out there until you encounter them, like I have with this video. But you've got to be a little soft to not like see through some of the marketing that women are getting when it comes to this trad wife BS. Most of the women who are promoting it online are wealthy, by the way. They're not actually doing the drudgery of running a farm or even maintaining their own kids by themselves all day. That's why they have time to film it and dress up and like play pretend and market it to you. As I said, I grew up trad. I know what this looks like up close and in person. Those women did not have soft lives. Far from it. And I saw a lot of other trad wives now replying in the comments and talking about what their lifestyle actually looks like in contrast to what this PR kind of image is, talking about how they run slim budgets. They make most of their stuff at home. They don't take a lot of vacations. They maybe drive to like Myrtle Beach once a year. Like they aren't living a glamorous lifestyle, but it's worth it for them because they really did want to have a lot of kids and wanted to stay home with them. And I think that's a very different kind of person than this girl. Furthermore, her understanding of the 1950s and that of literally anyone I've ever heard pining for it is laughably obtuse. They want the ad. They haven't even bothered to learn anything more than some old magazine picture from the time period that they came across online. And it just makes you wonder, like, do these women not have moms or grandmas or aunts? Because I don't know how you end up this ridiculously uninformed on the past. This is why mentorship is important. The 50s sucked. It sucked for men and it sucked for women. Their quality of life was way, way lower. Women were popping Quaaludes and getting lobotomies. Abuse and rape were rampant. Women and kids were stuck with and dependent on men who were drunks and gamblers and abusers. And guess what, homie? Most women had to work then too. Whether it be in the home or outside of it, women were working pretty hard. My friend Maureen on Twitter said, as someone who was alive in the 50s and lived this life, I would most definitely like to have a word. And another person said, these I wish it was the 1950s women are so stupid. They assume that in a system that robbed women of power, they'd get some best case fairy tale scenario, ignoring the system was challenged by feminists in the first place because it was a nightmare for so many. The only thing stopping this girl from living the life she claims she wants is her delusion, her victimhood mentality, and her appeal. But because she refuses to take any accountability for her life, and because she refuses to have hopes and dreams that are baked in reality, and because she's abysmally obtuse and unlearned, she's arguing to take away the rights of her competition and to force everyone back into an oppressive way of life. Like literally all because she can't get a man to float her. I cannot. I'm done playing nice with this kind of low life online. You look like a fool, and I've loved watching every second of the internet drag you for filth. The only thing this girl is a victim of is herself. And when women like the actual victims in Iran are facing true oppression, it is unhinged to be arguing against women's rights here in the States just because you're too lazy to make something of yourself when given the opportunity. All right, guys, I hope you liked this episode. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and if you want even more content, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok.